Y254. Imagine.
Many thanks for keeping us company, and if you just tuned in, this is Y254 Discussion Monday, and tonight we are talking about the influx of foreigners in our country. And with me in studio is Julu Okadia, he's the lawyer, and I'm also joined by Daniel Orogo, a political analyst. We will be putting things into perspectives. Welcome to the program. Now, gentlemen, habari yenu?
Salama sana.
Welcome to Y254. Now, although the African continent has gained independence from their colonialist, the continent is still experiencing neocolonialism, and this could be political, cultural, or even pressure from their former colonialists. And for some time, we have an influx of foreigners coming into our country, and particularly in Kenya, as far as we are concerned, the African continent. And the question I will ask is, do you think, Okadia, Kenya, as a country, we are under neocolonialism?
Well, I think it would be a bit far-fetched to claim that we are under, it's a new era of colonialism that we're experiencing, given being that I think the Constitution, Article 1, stipulates that Kenya is actually a sovereign state, and that sovereignty is exercised by the will of the people and by the people. So to this extent, I doubt that our sovereignty and the expression of that sovereignty has actually been affected and undermined, because currently we elect our own leaders, we do that. But having said that we're not really under a new era of colonialism, I do still think that there are certain policies which we are making which have retrogressive or a negative impact at the current generation and the future generation. So it's just a question of aligning our policies for the benefit of population.
All right. Now, Daniel, do you think we are under neocolonialism in our country?
There is some levels and some degree that I understand. There's ways in which neocolonialism manifests itself in our country. And whereas much as my colleague has mentioned that, you see, the Constitution elaborates and really opens up an avenue where we are independent state, but they are manifest on how foreigners have infiltrated our systems. And I want to put it boldly here that, you see, there's a hue and cry, especially from our members of parliament who represent the voters, about how our market is being flooded by foreign items, even though it's a matter of policy, it's a matter of law that we are operating probably under free trade area, free trade policies. But I think there should be some level of respecting our territorial dignity and assuring Kenya is sovereign, and we are not subject to decisions that are made by foreigners, or subject to consequences as a result of our markets being taken over, our systems being flooded. And so, yeah, there is a level that this has manifested itself, especially as we speak. Yeah, so I would agree with you that there is some level of neocolonialism, and unfortunately our foreigners probably are using proxy companies, or they are using third parties who are necessarily Kenyans, and Kenyans might not be able to see that their decisions are made by foreign companies or foreigners.
Now, Okadia, we can both agree one of the reasons we're having foreigners come into our country, one way could be the bilaterals that the nations have. Do you think Kenya is having this majority of foreigners coming into our country because of the bilateral agreements that there has been?
Well, essentially, the state has an obligation to the citizens, and one of them is to improve their livelihood and their state of living, and basically to better their lives. So if, in the wisdom or lack of it of the government, is to actually get into the agreement of whatever nature, because under Article 43, again, the state has an obligation for purposes of social economic rights of the individual, and these rights are meant to be gained or achieved progressively. And bilateral trade agreement is one of the ways in which you can get to that level.
Sure.
But I think that the advisors of government in relation to the negotiations, in relation to the effect, in relation to the impact or implementation of this or enforcement of this trade is where that is what is going wrong. But the agreements in themselves are not really something that can cause that aspect, because again, in a negotiation or an agreement kind of thing, you do realize that both parties need to benefit. So if there's one of the parties who is being shortchanged, then it's up to him or her or whatever state to actually bet up their game for purposes of the benefit of the state, of its citizens and the state at large. So for me, it's just a question of the advisors to government when it comes to this agreement.
All right. Recently, Mathira legislator said that Kenya knew this being edged out by the these foreigners who are taking all economic engagements, and just over the weekend he was on it again, including the deputy president, who will be listening into what they said in a bit. But before then, Daniel, do you think the Kenya knew this being edged out by the foreigners in terms of job opportunities and business opportunities?
Well, yes. You see, we really are very economical sometimes with the truth about what really goes on in this country. And reading through reports, you see, and there is some propaganda, there's some myths about foreigners and probably infiltrating. I want to give you that, you see, there's a report that was released, and Indians are actually having the largest share of our market, followed by UK and you see US, and fourth, the Chinese were actually ranked the fifth as far as creating of job opportunities and absorbing the locals are concerned. So we understand that, you see, young people who form the bulk of the population, and you see, what industries do you find young people? There are people who actually at rural areas who are fishing, local markets, mitumba markets, and you see artistry. But then immediately we are finding that even roasting maize, you see, a very simple job that our young people should actually do. There is a competition, from foreigners who we do not want to mention. You understand? Selling fish in Kisumu. These are very basic economical opportunity for young people of Kenya who actually should be the ones that are, benefiting from doing business like this. So there is a red flag. Right. Insofar as matters of, protecting our jobs are concerned. And I'd like to tell these people that the CS for Interior visited one of these plantations, and you see exactly how angry he was. Talking about even matters of supervision. Do you mean even somebody supervising a construction should be a foreigner? And people who are lining up, even receptionists, should be foreigners. So, we understand that we are torn between, respecting and us being obligated to bilateral agreements vis-a-vis our respect and dignity for young people. And this is why I like to tell you, even countries like, for example, Britain, when it comes to matters of EU Brexit, there are reconsideration as to far as, is this really something, the decision that they made, they're actually beginning to reconsider it. Other countries, so many countries, and one of the people that I quote in every this platform, the election of Donald Trump was based on the fact that he said Americans first. Right. Not any other people, American first. And this is what, our government representative really needs to, the song that they need to sing everywhere that they go.
That would be one of the songs they'll be singing come 2022. Let's listen to what the Deputy President and the Mathira legislator had to say over the weekend.
Tunasema wakuje wafanye ile kazi kubwa kubwa, ile ya engineers ya nani, lakini hii kazi hii ya kuchimba mitaro, hii ya kuchoma mahindi, hii ya kutengeneza viraka ya tairi imepasuka, hii kazi ya kuendesha pickup, hii ya kuendesha lori, hii ya makanga, hii watu wachie jameni.
Lakini ile kazi kidogo kidogo ile tunakubaliana na Shagwa, hii kazi ya mpaka 1 billion shillings tunataka ifanywe na Wakenya.
Tunasema wakuje wafanye ile kazi kubwa kubwa, ile ya engineers ya nani, lakini hii kazi hii ya kuchimba mitaro hii ya
all right. That is what these politicians were saying over the weekend. And Julu, what do you think is the perception of the general public in regards to the foreigners in our nation?
There is I think what the general feeling, I think, will be an attack on their dignity to some extent and the sense of being included in their own country, and which, if we can start from the preamble of the Constitution, we commit to nurture the individual and the communities at large, which of course get to the general citizenry. So if we are to encourage foreigners taking up jobs which the ordinary guy, the youth can do in this country, then we, in a sense, we are not recognizing that dignity, or that we are not respecting that dignity which is inherent according to Article 28 of our Constitution. And again, as we got Article 10 of the Constitution, which talks about national values and all that. There's a sense in which social justice is being abused. And I'm sure, as many people know, that the phrase justice not seen is justice undone. So there's a sense in which social justice system is being eroded, and then the feeling is that we're not feeling dignified and we're not feeling included in our own country. So I think that is a general feeling where you find that there are complaints about if I come to open my Mtumba shop and my next door competitor is a foreigner.
Right.
In as much as of course, we don't abuse the 21st century notion that the world is becoming a global village and all that. But I do think that the government needs to take in certain actions. One of the things that has been created under we have the Kenya Citizenship and Kenya Citizens and Foreign Nationals Management Service Board, which is created by the Kenya Citizen and Foreign National Service Management Act. Part of that board can actually recommend certain regulations which can be taken by the cabinet secretary responsible for purposes of responsible for that particular immigration matters. Now, one of the things that they can actually recommend is, one, they can recommend the qualifications of permit, because under that particular act there is again the permit committee, okay, which permit committee allows persons to come in on certain terms. We currently have the work permit, we have resident permit, but they can actually modify the requirements of this particular permit so that not each and every person comes in. Again, the other thing, under the Kenya Citizens and Citizenship and Immigrations Act, there's a requirement by employers, by residential premises owners, by people offering accommodation in the hotelier, hospitality industry, cruise ships as well. You're meant to give information as regards these people who are coming in. At the point of entry, there are certain questions which are meant to be posed to this particular individual. Who are you? What are your documents? Where are you going? Why are you coming to Kenya? What is your intention? And I think the moment that this there's a need to either enhance or appreciate the work that these particular people are meant to do, the officers in this particular, either the service board or the directorate, pick them up as the way they're meant to pick them up. And I think that we're going to have less and less of these situations where you find people, you have your drinking buddy as a foreigner, and the next day you're going to hustle with him on the street, instead of them coming in with special skills which Kenyans do not have. And again, as we get special skills, I think it's high time that we have a requirement where if you're bringing in special or skills which are not readily available in Kenya, then it should take up a Kenyan as probably as a mentee or someone as an apprenticeship, that kind of thing. So that by the time you're done, if your permit is for 5 years, after these 5 years, we have a Kenyan who is equally qualified. And I think that's what it's going to assist this country.
All right, Daniel, there's a statistics here that the unemployment in Kenya stands at 22.2%, significantly higher than Tanzania and Uganda, as well as in Ethiopia. The latest United Nations Human Development Report reveals that at the end of last year, unemployment in Tanzania was 5.2, Uganda was 4.0, and Rwanda was 3.3. Now, do you think it's about time we as Kenyans started interrogating the bilateral talks and agreements between this nation and the agreements they're getting as to why we're having foreigners come to work in our nations, because we have seen countries, for an example, Malaysia protecting its citizen by refusing offers for by Chinese, for an example. They didn't want, and they said it was so punitive they couldn't afford. They wanted to upgrade their airport. Do you think it's now time that Kenya start interrogating these bilateral talks?
Well, yeah, partly because you know, I always think, and I wish that statistics could have given us the number of young people who are actually
And of course the youth are the majority.
the youths are the majority, those who are unemployed or even underemployed.
Right.
And you see, I always hold a belief that, you see, if we were not able to correct the wrongs for 40 years, then it becomes a tall order for young people to actually begin, because these are mess that has been done by regimic, and it's so regimic. But then, yes, there is a hope, especially that we begin to question wherever we are sending a delegation to represent this country, what is in store for the Kenyan citizens? How are their ways upon which there is a feedback that now we've come with goodies, and break it down for Kenyans to understand? Because trust me, there have been a lot of foreign trips, and you see these agreements, and you know, but then the information that you know, what comes back is not really getting to the citizens. I think that could be one way. I think also the other way that we could actually deal with this is to really begin even to audit our own resources. You know, what if there are companies, multinational companies that are investing, you know, Talo Oil, for example, in Turkana. What is the local absorption? What is that area? What is the benefit? And we also begin to question if there are companies that are really not forthcoming with their tax, are avoiding to pay tax, or beginning to be given tax havens, because these are loopholes upon which we lose our revenues, and much of it goes back to our legislation as well, and since Wakili is here. And you see, I was going to say, we are having a number of legislation. You know, if there is a country that has got a number of policies, a number of legislation, and still others are being passed, vis-a-vis the implementation, it's really Kenyan. You know, recommendations are gathering dust in these cabinets. And you see, we are proposing more and talking more and confusing Kenyans further. Yeah. You see, for the first time, even as we review our trips, even as we review these policies, but then we really need to ask those who are tasked, the legal minds like this, to begin not to confuse Kenyans more. You know, tell Kenyans the truth. If we are having policies that were passed there before, can we begin to review those that are still there right now, rather than passing more and more and more? You know. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think Hillary, I think you've tried, and my presence and participation, I think it's a good start.
Yes.
That as advocates, we also putting in the voice so that we can advise and give Kenyans the information that is there. Yeah. And I think this show is also a good platform where people get to learn that information. But thank you very much, Mr. Ngoro. We'll put that into mind.
All right. I just want to end with you there, because you just mentioned that we have laws that should be protecting us. And now, how do we ensure that as a country we don't get to a situation like we saw with South Africa sometimes back with xenophobia? How do we see that these laws are implemented and Kenyans embrace tolerance? Nani Okadia?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, there are certain, like the service board, which is there, the directorate is there, the CS office is there, and everybody under the CS. But a question of being in existence is different from being felt, your existence being felt and being active and being recognized. That is something different. There's no implementation. And a question of xenophobia, I do not think that is more to do with government. It has more to do with the people. Yeah. And this kind of debate and this kind of discussion, this kind of talks, is actually a reflection of the attitude of our people at this particular point. And it calls for sober leadership at this juncture. And that's why I think that you have the MP coming out, you have the DP coming out to say that actually we need to review so that we can protect our own people. It's in an attempt to try and reorganize the mentality of Kenyans against foreigners. Because if that is not, at this particular point, it's just a question of leadership. Because the emotions and the attitude that people have is not something really that the government or the laws can protect, but the leadership of the country.
All right, many thanks, gentlemen, for coming and sharing your comments and your views regarding this particular matter. And we are hoping that something good will come out of this, and the government will try to do something beautiful and ensure that the nation is set in such a way that we will not be having problems in this country. Rather, thank you so much. They have been my guest, Julu Okadia, a lawyer, and I've been also with Daniel Orogo. He's a political analyst. Now, coming up next is Y Mashariki with DJ Tieska. DJ Tieska, how are you?
I'm really fine.
Naona umejipanga sana Y Mashariki kutumbuiza watu.
Yeah.
Sijui nieke suti nikuje ama itakuaje?
You look too sharp, man.
Naweza toa si ya kila wakati. Naweza iweka chini.
Sasa kwa karibu.
All right, asante sana. I am Dereva Hilary. Have a good evening and stay tuned for Y Mashariki. See you on Friday.
Y254. Imagine.